Victor, thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat with me. I know you're extremely busy. It's really interesting. In order to get ready for this interview, I read a little bit more about you, and I discovered some things that I didn't know. I mean, I didn't.
Okay, this is scary. It's getting scary.
Not that,
Go ahead.
not that deeply into you, but so you published 7 or 8 books, if I'm not mistaken.
13 going on 14.
Oh, okay, all right. So the numbers, Wikipedia is not up to date. You've been on reality television, Life or Death, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
You consult businesses. You're a motivational speaker. You do sales training. Is there anything that you don't do?
There's a lot of things I don't do. It really started out, I started out in the business world. And then I started, when I left business world to start speaking, I did a lot of motivational speaking. And then eventually I said, you know what, I want to do some sales training because that's, where I left corporate America, I was in sales. And then the reality TV show just came because they found me. And so my background is, it's electrical engineering, MBA, run businesses. So they said, hey, would you like to be on a reality show as a host? And so I did a full season called Life or Death. But that was just one of those things that came in my life and then right back out. So, but everything that has to do with sales and motivation, that's me.
Yeah. And I didn't mention that you've spoken almost all over the world. I was looking at places that you've spoken. So really covered most of the world. So with that, I make the assumption that 2020 started for you looking pretty good and then things changed a little bit.
I mean, it just went, when everything began to change, my first quarter, all the way almost through mid-March was just, I was just like on the plane all the time. So it was busy. And then obviously after that, everything just, the map was cleared. I should say the calendar was cleared, Gary. It's like, but like anything else, Gary, there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? Glass half full, glass half empty. And so I have different revenue streams, speaking being one of them, coaching being another one, and then my online sales platform, the Sales Velocity, being the third one.
Yeah.
And so now one was gone. And I just said, okay, well, let's focus on the other two because we're doing, you can do that remotely. And so that has been a blessing in disguise because I've discovered I really don't like being on a plane all the time. I'd rather be at home, coaching, selling the programs and coaching people online. And I think that's just as fulfilling.
Yeah. So you with us over here in New Zealand since the middle of March, we've been in kind of a lockdown, and it's slowly beginning to open now up, and hopefully in a few weeks' time we will be almost normal. How have you been in lockdown? I'm not too sure which part of the States you're in right now.
So we're in Atlanta, Georgia, and so we began the unlocking almost, let me see, a week before Friday. Not this Friday, the Friday before. And so, like you guys, we're slowly coming out of it because I think most people don't realize, when they look at the U.S., they kind of go, oh, but they don't realize. I think it's 5 states represent about, I think almost like, a good 30, 40, maybe 50% of the deaths. But most people don't realize that 50% of the counties in the United States have had no cases at all. And so it's very concentrated in high urban areas like New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Pennsylvania, and things, and I think Florida maybe a little bit. But we're good. I can feel it already opening up. But that said, though, I think something's happened. In the sense that something good has happened. I think what used to be considered like something on the side has now become mainstream. By that I mean, working from home was always like, really? Are you working from home? Right? People always had that cynical attitude. Yeah. So I think that's become more mainstream. Training online has become more mainstream. Yeah. And also holding conferences online has become more mainstream. Just this past Friday, a company that I work with, we did a virtual happy hour with the DJ and everything with a theme of 1980s, right? Wow. And we had, I think, 2,500 people just jump online. Wow. For a 1-hour virtual party. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, people who never use, for example, Zoom or whatever you're using, now know how to use it. Yeah. And so I see this as forcing a lot of people who were technophobics are now into the technology. So I think that's great.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Quite a few people that I speak with say the same thing, that the virtual, the digital, the technological world has become so much busier in the last month and a half, 2 months, just because that's where business headed immediately.
Yeah, I like
So
that. I think we should look at it as the wall has become thinner and shorter. How's that? I think, it's a good visual, right?
yes, and so you've now with obviously speaking globally, going out and possibly seminars as well. So you're doing a lot more online training. I've watched a few of your online training, the live training that you have done over the last week. How are you adjusting to that?
hmm I'm loving it, man. Like I said, I was on the plane almost every week, and it's like it's tiring after the while. So, I've made a personal commitment. This is what's come out of this. I've made a personal commitment that by 2022, that's 2.5 years from now,
Hmm.
I'll be fully virtual.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And not have to get on a plane. By the way, will I get on a plane and travel and speak? Of course I will, but there'll be more of an option as
Hmm.
opposed to the mainstream of the business. So if there's an 80-20 rule, I'm about to flip the 80-20 funnel.
Yeah.
And so it's caused me to, like, we were talking before we got started that, I was having microphone problems. It's caused me, and you can't really see a lot of stuff in the studio, but, there's a lot of stuff going on now in the studio. Even this new digital backboard, this whiteboard is new. We got new cameras. And so I said, you know what, let's invest in this because I think it's going to be a viable tool. So hopefully if you're a small company or small business, you're going to take advantage of this.
Mhm.
And if I could share a quick nugget with you from last week, is I did a workshop for a pool company. We did 3 webinars for 3 weeks, right? And pools. Now we're talking swimming and pools, right? And they're seeing an explosion
Yeah.
in the pool business because, there's this thing called staycation, right? Stay at home, vacation. And so people are taking their money there and putting it in the house as opposed to going on vacation.
Yeah.
So that market is taking off.
Yeah.
Today I did a webinar for a window company, and guess what? Their salespeople are selling about 22% more.
Wow.
Average order size is up 22% because of video.
Mm.
And here's what they're doing. This is really interesting. They set up a studio kind of that mocks their location. They have windows, they have doors, they have everything. And what happens is they now have virtual consultants who actually show you what's going on. Here are the windows,
Yeah, wow.
here's some doors. And because people can see more things, they kind of want more things. So their sales have increased at least 22%. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, yeah, that is incredible, and it kind of leads me to the next question that I was going to ask you about. How do you see people adjusting? So probably a lot more businesses, a lot more companies will start having those virtual sales room, not just the big physical one. You see that happening more and more.
I think it'll happen more and more. I think people are still shaking this off. You know what I mean? And I think there's some people who believe that we'll go back to normal. I don't think so. When I was in engineering school, I took a materials class, materials being like metals and stuff like that. And the instructor took a metal hanger, which you've done, I'm sure, right? And he bent the hanger, right? Just to show you, he bent the hanger. And then he gave it to a student and says, all right, make it straight again, right? And so obviously the student tried to make it straight, but there was still that little what?
Yeah. Then yeah.
And if you know materials and metallurgy, you know that in that bend, the bonds have reformed, realigned to form something stronger.
Mm.
So I think what's happened is we've bent the hanger. That's the way I want to look at it. That little bump is there. It isn't going away. We're not going to go back to normal.
Yeah.
We're going to go something similar. But I think that bent is now going to say virtual is real. Let's invest and let's figure out how to incorporate that into our natural sales process.
Mm. Yeah. With I'll ask for your advice for people who might be watching this. A lot of the people that are connected to me through Facebook, through LinkedIn are in sales. A lot of real estate salespeople. So their business has been on hold for a while. Things are now beginning to open. There's more sales. We do. I'm not too sure. That's kind of interesting. In New Zealand or in Auckland, we do a lot of auctions, selling properties through auction. And a lot of auctions are now being held online, where before they were in rooms and people would come. So that has changed. But with people who have been kind of sitting at home right now, not doing too much prospecting,
Sure.
What would be things that you would say, hey, look, this is where you should start, or this is where you would be a good place to look for
It's a
business?
great question. I mean, it's a great question because, there are salespeople who are going to look at this and take the opportunity to say, how do we redirect, refocus, retool, and redo this right? Because it's almost like I hate to use the word reset, but it's a good reset button for you to sit back and think about, okay, how do I do this? I think a lot of people are having, like moments. What I call moments is they're sitting there go, okay, I got caught on this. How do I avoid getting caught again in the future? Right? Some people are just going to be scared and back off and leave sales. Well, that's part of the game, right? But for those who hang in there and want to be in sales, I really believe that this new tool, now that everybody's accepted virtual as part of a new reality for selling, this is this is good. This is really good.
Yeah.
I know everybody's like taking 1 or 2 steps back financially. I get that. But now think about the efficiency. I'll go back to the window company. So their sales increased 22% on average, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. They do windows. That means they don't have to send the truck out to the location as often, so they'll save money. They'll be more profitable. By using a virtual consultant, the way they do it, Gary, is that let's say that I'm trying to sell you something, right? But I'm just a new sales guy. I just started out. I would be afraid to present things I don't know about, like doors or guns or whatever. I would stick to what I know. That's what salespeople do, right? They stick to what they know. But here's what happens. I call you as a potential customer, Gary, and I said, Gary, let's jump on the line with our virtual consultant who's at the location where they can show you everything, and let's have a conversation. Now, the virtual consultant takes over and starts talking about all these things. And I, as the new salesperson, didn't have to know this. Now I'm learning also.
Yeah.
But think about what that means from time to value. Time to value is how fast you can ramp up and become effective. Because you're now leveraging virtual and a virtual consultant, think about how fast you can get up to speed and start selling.
Yeah.
So I personally think glass half full all the time.
Yeah.
So if you're bummed out about selling and things aren't going well, that's fine. Let's just figure it out.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So you see a lot of businesses changing, business beginning to grow and obviously change. One of the questions that I enjoy, and it's a hard question I think to answer, is what would, looking at what's happening right now and how things are developing, what is your message of hope to people?
I go back to the fact that I think this virtual thing is on the upswing. Look, what's going to happen is it's what's happening in a lot of countries, especially even in China. There's something called revenge spending. Revenge spending, and it's so pent up that when it's time to let go, you're going to let go and start buying things. I think people are going to have these midlife crises or just go, you know what, life's too short. Let's go get what I want, more buy. So I think these spending opportunities are coming. The downside, I think, because I'm not always rosy, you know what I mean? It can't be always rosy. The downside, and I'll give you this visual. It's a visual I've been using. I want you to think of the U.S. economy as moving like a big truck, like a pickup truck, right? The economy was moving. Man, we had people on that pickup truck. We were moving, and all of a sudden, boom! They slammed on the brakes, and bodies were flying everywhere. Right? That's people getting kicked off the employment roles. And so I think the toughest part is one or two. One is getting the actual car going again. But then is how do you absorb all these people back into the workforce? And I think that is the challenge. It's the absorption rate. And I'm not as optimistic as most people are, which is why I say that if you're in sales, you'll always have a job because people need salespeople, right? And so that's the good news. If you're in sales, that's the good news. But I think a lot of people who work for other companies might have a hard time being reabsorbed into a company.
Yeah. So there will be a lot of adjustments, jobs that may never come back, businesses that will change, and people will need to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, because you know what? Companies are taking the time right now to reinvent themselves. As you know, I wrote a book on artificial intelligence, right? Biggest question I always get is, will the machines replace me? And I said, never look at it in terms of will the machines replace me. Look at which tasks in your process are duplicatable and repeatable, and those are the ones that will be processor AI out. But in the end, salespeople still need to exist. I still think there's a place for salespeople, and I still believe salespeople are the biggest differentiators in the market, because in today's market, products are the same, services are the same. It's how the salesperson presents it and position it that makes it all different. And so I think that's the upside. Like I said, but I think we're both in agreement that this absorption rate coming back and getting back to normal, it's going to be a while. I mean, I'm going to put a 2 to 5 year prediction on this thing. That's going to take that long for this to get back.
Yeah, yeah. Economies probably will struggle for a while, and there will be a lot of changes. I think over here with New Zealand, Australia, possibly opening borders to each other, and there might be there's a talk about the Pacific and the Pacific bubble where countries will be able to travel to each other. That might work, but there will be a lot of other places that will struggle for a while before things become a new normal again. So it'll be very interesting, very, very interesting.
Yeah, we were looking at different data models about the virus and then the deaths, and you can look at 5 different models, you'll get 5 different outcomes, right? But I think it's safe to say that this is going to be with us for a while. Just like the flu's always been with us, we have to kind of just cope with it. I think to some extent, we're just going to have to figure out a way to cope with this as well. So I don't think it's going to go away. I think we just have to try to get back to normal, and then try to, and hope that the smart people up there, doctors, whatever, figure this out and come up with some type of vaccine to help us out. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. Fabulous. Victor, if people want to find a little bit more about you, possibly use your services, what's the best way? Website, YouTube channel, anywhere?
Google me, Victor Antonio. Just Victor Antonio, or just go to victorantonio.com. I'm everywhere. I try to be everywhere. I think, and by the way, that's one of the things I like to emphasize, because a lot of people ask me about my business. And one of the things I always like to tell people, because I want to share this, is that if you're not leveraging the social media platforms, and I'm talking about putting not only just posts, but putting video content, articles, blogs, whatever it may be, if you're not posting regularly, because that is part of the new sales mandate. Yeah. As a salesperson, it's no longer about waiting for people to give you accounts or for marketing to do all the real work. You have to treat yourself as a business unit, and you have to be your own marketer at times. And so if you're in sales and you don't have a website, one of the questions I would ask is, why not? 2, if you don't have some type of social media channel and you're sharing content every week, why not? If you're in real estate, I'd be sharing real estate content every week. 5 tips for da-da-da-da, 20 tips for da-da-da. This is what you're looking for when you're buying a property. Here's how you look at upgrades, whatever it may be. If you could position yourself as an expert, as a sales expert, then people will come to you and you won't have to go to them. So keep that in mind, that you got to be aggressive these days in terms of the content you put out. Don't just wait for the business to come to you.
Yeah. Fantastic advice.
Was that too hard? Was that too hard, Gary? Was that too hard?
Well, I think for you at the end of the day, that's probably good enough energy. For people here, if they will see it early in the morning, it might be a bit too hard, but that's fine. No, fabulous. Victor, I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I know how extremely busy you are, even now with things, with the business changing a little bit, you still are extremely busy. So I appreciate your time. And I hope that we will be able to have another chat in the future. It will be different.
Face to face and different. How's that?
That sounds great.
All right, man. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
You too.